Okay, welcome everybody. What is it, Tuesday? I lose track in this time of quarantine. Welcome to At the Gardens. We are so thankful for your attention every single day. My name is Garrett Wilhelm. I'm the CEO of Creative Gardens Early Education. We are a company in Virginia that builds schools that focus in on personalized education, personalized learning. And my goal with this show is to have folks on that are local to Loudoun County, just like me, that can provide you as parents and people and humans value. And today we have a very cool person on the podcast. We put a call out to the Loudoun County Social Collective, and I said, look, guys, I need folks on here from Loudoun County that are going to talk to our community about kids and different topics when it comes to that. One of those topics was discipline. And so today we're going to have my friend Jay Johnson on the show. He's going to talk to us a little bit about discipline and about what he does with his business. I can't wait to talk with him about that. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring him on the show. We're going to have an awesome conversation. And remember, y'all, comment in the comments below. We want this to be a conversation. If you have a question, if you have a comment, throw it on. We'll feature it on the show. This is all about building community. So let's do that together, my friends. I'm going to bring Jay on. So hold on one second. And here we go. Jay Johnson.
Garrett, what's up, my man? Thanks for having me.
What's going on, Jay? We had some serious technological difficulties, but you know what? It was meant to be, my friend.
Yes,
it was meant to be.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So obviously today we're going to talk a little bit about discipline, specifically discipline with kids. But first, I like to, in reference to your Batman shirt, I like to get an origin story of every guest that comes on the show. So, tell me your origin story. Tell the community your origin story. Let me hear how you got to starting your own business.
I got into the field of fitness years ago. I would say maybe over like decade and some change ago. And I honestly got into it through a very, very dark time in my life. I was actually going through somewhat of a depressed phase.
Sure.
Didn't have a job. Got a serious relationship. Getting out of relationships always start good fitness journeys.
As that goes.
Yeah, but eventually, I just wanted to do something instead of just doing nothing. And I just stumbled across this, and I just started doing this, and this got me going. Not just, to be fit physically, but be fit as a person, as an individual. I started doing other things that I didn't think I could even do. I never thought at that time I'll be able to start a business. And, here I am. I just started a business. I actually recently quit my job back in February to start my business full time. Just, how something's just right. And, that's what you should be doing. And my gut feeling, my instincts, everything was telling me, we shouldn't be doing this. We should be doing, training. So I walked in one day at my boss and said, hey, it's not you, it's me. The classic.
I love it.
The classic breakup excuse. And,
yeah.
Gotta go. It's just not working anymore. I thank you for everything you've done, but this is what I want to do. And this is what I've been doing since then.
That's so awesome, man. And you talked a little bit in that origin story, a little bit about, fitness being far more than physical. And I think, that's a great conversation to even have around children and, ensuring that that physical fitness is really important to their childhood and growth. And it teaches far more than just physical fitness. And then two, that mental fitness that we're talking about. And so that's a great way for me to segment into, you said you had kind of worked with kiddos in some fashion and working on discipline and stuff. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and your journey there?
Well, when I work with kids, it's easier to teach them discipline than it is to teach adults, believe it or not.
I believe it. Trust me.
It is. It's a lot easier. They're more receptive. They're more easy to conversate with, and and they're more open to understanding that if you want to achieve something, in any endeavor, you're going to have to be disciplined. I always tell people that anyone I'm training them, discipline is the foundation of all great qualities in life. So if you want to be great at anything you do, and I don't really care what it is. The fitness is the avenue I go through. But whatever it is, you have to apply a certain level of discipline to it, and through that discipline, you learn and you grow. I mean, that for me specifically, when I'm training anyone, especially kids and everything, people who are younger than me, I always tell them that it's always about who you become in the end. I mean, it starts off great. You want to get fit. You want to look good at the beach. You have a six pack and everything. I get all that.
Right.
But eventually, it's about the person you become, because you become someone totally brand new that you didn't even expect that you would become. Like myself, for example, when I began training and stuff like this, it helped build my self esteem, my confidence, and allow me to take the same kind of discipline that I have now and apply it in different endeavors. For example, when I started my business, there's no way on God's beautiful green earth that I would be able to run a business
Right.
as I was before versus how I am now. And I just try to give that to everyone. It's like I said, it's a lot easier with the kids because, like I said, they're really open minded, receptive to discipline and versus adults. But like I said, and it's something that for me personally, it's like a core foundation of everything that I work on. Because if I can just discipline myself to work harder, then I'm going to work harder, and then eventually I'll become successful in whatever endeavor I'm in.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. So you're talking about, that's kind of inner discipline, that motivation to get something done, whatever that one thing is, and definitely relating it to, physical fitness, let's say, and you're challenging. I think it's a great point that you're making, that if you can challenge things like your body, right, that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of set these mental limitations to. I think there's some study out there that says, like, when your brain says stop, it's really only like 60% of your body's capability, that you can fight past that to things that you didn't know your body could do. And I think, do you find that, let's say you're in your own experience, and maybe even in your experience with working with kids, is that hurdle of a physical capability can be applied to, or even opens a child's mind up to more possibilities in their life?
Yes, and mostly because the body's made for comfortability. Like you're made to be comfortable, and then once you start getting comfortable, your mind's going to automatically be like, "Hey, guy, we're done. I'm no longer comfortable. I want to stop now. Let's give it a
Right.
break. Let's give it a break." And the growth is past that hurdle. That behind that block is where the growth and everything you want is.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to. It's more, honestly speaking, from my perspective and a lot of people's perspective, it's most any kind of like discipline. It's all really a mental game. It's all really just telling yourself, this is not my limit. This is not my threshold, and I can go beyond this. But the battle is, are you going to listen to your mind, or are you going to listen to what's driving you? What's your motivation? What's your why? What's your why to go past that, to remain disciplined? For me, for example, when I'm talking to people about fitness, I tell them all the time, everybody starts off hot. Everybody starts off hot. You're going to the gym every day, you're killing it. Then all of a sudden, something
Mm-hmm.
happens, you miss that one workout,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it becomes a trickle effect. And it becomes a trickle effect because you know you lost your discipline. You lost your discipline because you decided, you made a choice already that you were already going to put this to the side, and this is not important, and your motivation for it to achieve that isn't enough. So what your to remain disciplined is that you have to have a very strong why. Like, why are you doing this? And that is going to get you through the times when you're not disciplined. Is that you go back to your why. So if you can keep a strong mental game, as in your why is your priority, then you'll have success.
I really like, keeping the why as your priority. I think that's a little nugget I'll write down and quote you on later. Um, but honestly, I think here's my issue. Right? Is, we have kids. I believe that my generation and kind of past that, I don't even know what to call myself. It's either a Zennial or something before that. I was born in 1980. So, I guess in my generation, you tried a sport
I,
and
we're,
whether,
we're
say that
born
again.
we're born in the same decade.
Oh, that's yeah. So my point being this, right? So our parents put us into sports,
Yeah,
and whether or not we liked it initially, we were in that sport, and eventually you either became comfortable with it or you really excelled or you decided, but you made more of an informed decision than nowadays on whether or not these things would work for you. So I guess what I mean by that is you have a kid now that, like, let's say tries soccer,
right.
and the majority of families kind of go on this line of they try soccer the first time, they don't like it, and then they cut soccer off for the kid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then they're on to the next thing. I believe that that's a detriment to things like grit, right? You're not teaching grit and perseverance with that type of mentality. What would you suggest to families who are looking at things like sports to enter to kind of reinforce grit and stick to itiveness?
My suggestion would be to simply, teach your child that you're not going to get everything right on the first try. You're not going to be good at everything in the first try.
Right.
Like for example, Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before he made a light bulb lit up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not it's not something that you're going to get automatically. And if you're, and the truth is, I mean, there are kids out there that are just talented at things, but talent always beats, in my opinion, talent always beats hard work. I mean, talent's nothing if it doesn't work hard. It's good. It'll make you look good and flashy to a certain point, but
Right.
once you reach a certain level, you have to be skillful, and skill comes from discipline and hard work. So my suggestion to parents is, teach your child that, everything's not going to be easy. You're not going to get everything off the bat, and try to explain to them that, hey, just stick with it, because the more you do at it, the better you get. That's something that I've learned, that's, back to fitness, but I've learned that the more you stick with something and the easier it becomes.
That's right.
And it doesn't get easier because the situation got easier. It got easier because you got better. And so that's something
Mm,
that needs to be definitely told to children when it comes to sports. You can only get better. And the better you get, the easier it becomes for you.
got it. I mean, preach, because that's definitely the truth. And I think what happens nowadays is we've gone from things like, I mean, you've heard the term helicopter parents, where you kind of hover over your kiddos to ensure that everything's
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Nowadays, we kind of focus in on this term of lawnmower parents, which parents are kind of mowing the perfect grass around their kiddos so that they never fail, they never get hurt, they never, have the challenges that are needed for kids to excel. And it's so good to hear what you're saying, which is like the world, we can't teach kids the world is perfect and that it's that the world is like this cleanly place that nothing's ever going to happen. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, right? It's, you're thrown all of these challenges in the world that you face and you have to kind of pivot and deal with them. My
Yeah.
fear is that we are raising children that won't be prepared for the future that ultimately will be, which is going to require much more of the grit, the perseverance, the innovation, the iteration and failure, rather than you having these kids that get to the first experience. Like, let's say they come and train with you, and it's hard. Right. Let's say they're doing performance training for a sport. They come to you one time, they get beat up in practice just in the sense of, just a good workout.
Mhm.
And then their parents see that and go, oh, I feel so bad. We're not going to send them back. Like but that happens, right? That happens
that
so much. So,
that does happen. I mean, the only way you can grow as a person
right.
at all is to have challenges, is to go through hardship. There is absolutely no way that you can grow as an individual and be through comfortability. That doesn't happen. It only happens when you're uncomfortable, when you're forced to face a challenge, when you're forced to grow. And if you're just making everything, safe, how can that person grow as an individual, yet alone as an individual that's able to face harder challenges as they get older?
Which
That's
ultimately, unless you're, in royalty and
yeah.
get everything taken care of you, is going to be needed. But God, I wish, like, I want to say that very clearly for the audience to understand, because it's so true. You will not grow as an individual unless you are challenged with hardships.
Yeah,
Plain and simple,
plain and
done and
simple.
done.
I mean, that's where the growth is. I mean,
Yeah.
because the growth is, again, I keep saying, I'm going to go back to this again. It's nothing in life is really going to get easier. The only thing is that you get better. And the best example I can think about this. This is going to sound a little weird, but just hear me out here.
Sure.
A lot of people go through life, similar like a video game. They put the settings on hard, but they're trying to play the game on easy, and
Mm.
you always fail. However, if the setting is hard and you play the game on hard, then the game is pretty easy for you. So that's the way I go about things. Life is not easy. It's hard. It's actually incredibly hard. But if you live it incredibly hard at the same level, then it's not going to be nowhere near as difficult versus someone who's trying to just cruise by on easy mode on a hard setting.
That's so true. And I tell kids a lot, we have school age kids here too. And even during the school year this year, obviously with full virtual learning, we offered this program called the GAP program, where we have certified educators with. So I basically have a private school of school age kids joining me. I have 40 kids next year.
Nice.
And the reason I call that out is because they're at an age where, the messaging can be to them like, if I'm talking to an adult, I very much tell them like, the only person that's putting walls up between you and your achievements is you and the stories you're telling yourself. And so I think it's a really important message to teach children now when they're young that, you know what? No one, at the end of the day, when you become a grown folk like we are, no one's going to care about your excuses. Zero people care about your excuses. Your ability to accomplish tasks and do is all about you and hard work and hustle, and that's it. There's no, except for those micro exceptions, right? These royalty kids and things.
Yeah.
There's no one that achieves what they achieve without hard work. Would you agree with that?
I totally 100% agree with that. And honestly, it's honestly really good to get them at a young age before they go out into the workforce and they learn about reality the hard way.
Right.
So it's really good to teach them that at a very, very young age, because at that honestly that age, from like being a child to like an adolescent to like I want to say teenagers, but we know teenagers don't listen. But
famously,
those are like pivotal points in a child's life where the most of the information they're going to absorb for the rest of their life is happening at those ages. So it's really good that they learn, working hard, discipline, effort, perseverance, tenacity. They learn all these things then, so therefore they can apply them now and thus set themselves up for better success later on down in life. Because success only does one thing: it breeds more success. So.
And that mindset, it's a mindset of how to be a successful person. And it's not, I think people complicate it. People read all these books, like what's the next self-help book, right? It's not a hard concept. Keep at it, keep learning from your mistakes, and eventually you'll get there. And I'm sure that you've seen that path in even starting a business like I did. We're both entrepreneurs. Like, you have this idea, it floats in your head, it eats at you, and then finally you make this decision like, you know what? I'm going to move away from how I've thought life should be my entire life, and I'm going to move into something that's far more empowering, yet far more challenging than just going and getting a job for X company, sitting in that position your entire life. And like, but ultimately, what I tell kids is no one ever changed the world by following all the rules. That you have to kind of step outside of that thought process to get things done and to achieve. My question to you, Jay, is being in the training field and knowing how to motivate people. What is a micro thing that a family or a parent with a child during this virtual learning scenario where, like, where they have a tough time organizing, what would be the best tip that you would give families to establish kind of an inner discipline within your child, applicable to school specifically? Because
I mean, that's quite. I mean, just teacher, excuse me, talking fast, and I'm thinking. Uh,
yep.
teach your kid to simply just believe in themselves. I mean, that will take. I mean, that right there will just take you so far on its own. Because if you believe in something enough, whatever it is, you're going to work at it until it's acceptable to your standards. Quitters. You never heard of someone becoming successful by quitting. You never ever heard that. You
Yeah.
know,
Unless it's
so
smoking, and then they, you know what I mean? Unless you quit smoking, which you
yeah,
should.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody out there, if
yeah,
you're smoking,
yeah,
quit.
yeah,
It's a good
exactly,
move.
exactly.
Yeah.
But just teach your kid to believe themselves. I mean, that's really like the most hardest thing to do. And when I work
Sure.
with adults, it's easy. Like I said, everything's easier with kids because they don't have the burden of the world on them yet. And so, but adults, it's really hard to get like an adult to believe themselves after they've known nothing but failure forever, you know, and they've been
Yeah.
quitters. And I'm telling you, I cannot stress this enough. Like those habits, if kids learn failure as being a failure and giving up and quitting it will become a habit for the rest of their lives. I know people, I've trained people who've done this, who've
Yeah.
done that, and it is not a good way to live your life. Most people at the truth is, in my opinion, most people are dead at 25, then buried at 65. You know, that's
Wow.
that's how a lot of people live their lives. They just give up after that. And so my suggestion is teach your kid confidence to believe themselves. Confidence is a skill, by the way. It's not something that you just get. It's something you have to work on every day. So, no one's just born out the womb super
With
confident.
confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let them work, let them find something, whether it's, I don't know, it's I don't know, sport or something that they take interest in, and let them keep working on it until they get good at it. That builds confidence. That's confidence.
Yeah, and I think people don't. That's where I think the biggest challenge with our society and the children that are growing up now is we're so locked into here's how school looks, here's what you're going to do, here's this. There's not, because we have iPads, a lot of kids that used to do sports and training and I think sports specifically because that was kind of a norm for us growing up in the
Yeah,
80s,
definitely,
is
definitely.
now it's not a norm, right? And so you're
Yeah.
missing those key, and I look at it as micro accomplishments, right? Like a sport, in any sport, whether it be table tennis to football, the whatever it may be, it's a direct response to how hard you work. You work this hard, you are this much better. Like you said, talent is only a small piece of it. And there are some
Yeah.
people, but one of my favorite documentaries now is that Michael Jordan documentary that came out. I don't know if you saw it, The
The
Last
Last
Dance.
Dance.
Yeah.
I've seen parts of it. I didn't even know he was cut from his high school basketball team.
Well,
I,
and that's the point is
I didn't
people
I didn't
think
even know that. I didn't even
that
know that.
this guy was so talented. No, this guy worked harder than any person out there. And still to this day can get any 20, 30-year-old on the court, even high schooler on the court, and do work around them because this guy is a hard worker. And I think
Yeah,
that is, it's the reason why I thought, bringing you on would be really interesting, is because this is a key thing that's missing within kids' lives, is that micro progression to show that, to build that confidence, to build that skill, to know, oh, a week ago I had a PR, let's say, in running of X, and then this week I ran and I was faster because I trained last week a little bit more. The
hmm
body, the body and the brain are really good at rewarding hard work, and I
yeah,
feel
I
like
agree.
Yeah, I feel like we're really missing that, and that's a detriment. And I can only hope that we get kids back there. And that being said, what would you think is a good like start to that with families to maybe fight against that lack of kind of, it's almost like leaning into your kids too much. Like, oh, you want to
Yeah.
sit at home and play Roblox? Like, done. Let's just do that. And that's easier than actually pushing your kiddo. So what would your advice be?
One of my pieces of advice is, as a parent, are you a hard worker? Kids pick up a lot of habits from their parents. Whether they
Yeah, yeah.
know it or not, they pick up a lot of their habits from their parents. Like, I work with a lot of people. Who actually picked up a lot of their parents' eating habits, and which is why they've gained, X amount of pounds, yada yada yada. But
Yep.
everything starts they say everything starts from, I cannot stress that enough. It does. So make sure, one thing, like I said, teach your kid, you teach your child constantly, but you're also practicing what you want them to preach, practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
You gotta, you're the parent, your job is to set the example. I'm not telling you how to do that, but, but, just show your child this is what hard work does. And this is what it's gotten me. And you can do the same thing.
Yes, and I couldn't say it better myself. We talk a lot at my school about social emotional growth, which is kind of what we're talking about here. And I've worked with some really amazing educators in my career, and what I've come to is the same thing that you've come to, which is authentic education, authentic teaching, and authentic learning comes from embodying the practices in which we are teaching themselves.
Exactly.
So if you're going to be, I teach, I have yoga here for my school age kids. Right. I would be a sucker if I didn't do yoga myself, right? I would be like, yeah. Yoga's great for kids. Why don't you guys do it? But I'm going to go over here and pound burgers all night. Like that's not going to happen. Like I understood a very long time ago that, like you're saying, like to get the message across the most clear, you have to actually do the things that you're telling kids to do, or for you telling kids and adults to do.
Because people, I forgot this guy's name. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. His name is Lance something, but
Armstrong.
He was the first human to run a mile in 5 minutes. I forgot his name. I'm gonna have to look it up after this. But after he did it, everybody started doing it around the world. And the point is once someone sees somebody else accomplish something, then they know it's possible.
Was it Prefontaine? No, you'll get it later, I'm sure.
What's that? Lance Watson? Yeah, Lance Watson. There we go. Lance Watson.
Got it.
Yeah.
He was the first guy to run a mile under 5 minutes.
5 minutes. And then once he did it, everyone else started doing it around the world.
That's right.
And so the point is when people see examples of stuff and see examples of success, it's easy. Then, oh, wow, I can emulate that. And so, there you go. You create a bunch of success. And more importantly, you're not really even doing anything about it. You're just really I've done this and people see it. And so therefore they know it's possible. Once you show someone that, it's easier for them to believe that it becomes successful given what you've done. So it's a trickle effect.
I think too, stop parents out there, stop looking for someone to be that person for your kiddo and be that person yourself. I think that's the biggest. And I will say it, because I know you know what I'm talking about. It's like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Who's going to be the coach? Who's going to be the role model? Who's going to be hey, parents, look in the mirror. It's you. Be that role model.
And kids, like I said it again, like kids pick up a lot of stuff from their parents. And a lot of times they're really looking towards, because they're around the parents the most. They're looking for you as a parent from guidance. It doesn't have to, and a lot of times it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. just get going in the right direction. I mean, you're going to have bumps. You're going to fail. I mean, part of failing is success. You fail your way to success. That's what they say.
Yes. You fail
And
forward. That's what
yeah,
we
you
say
fail
here.
forward. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
always fail. But the difference between a failure and between failing and a failure is once a failure is down, they stay down. When you fail, you make a mistake, you learn from this mistake, and then you go back and improve upon it, thus making you better. So
Exactly. And I'll say this to you, families out there and parents out there. I'm going to point a hard finger at you. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Understand this. If you walk away from this show with anything, let it be to be the example that you want your kids to be. And part of that example, like Jay said, part of that example is the struggle, the failure. And if I guarantee, I wear a shirt a lot that says legacy over currency, right? So basically putting out there to my family, to everybody, this is my message is I live my life to hopefully have as many people at my funeral as possible, right? Like that's the ultimate stamp that I want to put on the world is what have I done? What needle have I pushed forward, right? Like what?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, look, we all know that we live and die. Those are definite things, right? Like, what else are you going to do with your life? Are you going to wake up every day and be like, come and just kind of follow along? Like, there are so many needles that need to be pushed forward. Pick one, push it forward. When you have kids, they'll learn from you. And our generation, the next generation, the come-uppins, as I call them, they're going to change. They're going to change the world, man. They're going to change the world in ways. Obviously, hey, the world needs it right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, I think what you're doing and that message is awesome, Jay. And
let me add on something real quick. Let me add something on real quick.
Sure,
guys. Changing the world does not need to be, getting a rocket ship and going landing on the moon. It could be something just being there for someone. It could be teaching someone something. It doesn't have to be nothing big or flashy. It's just passing something on to someone else. That's how I view it as. Me personally, when I only want one thing. Just throw me in a ditch, throw me some dirt on there, but make sure my tombstone says hard work on it. That's all I care about. 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 And
because one kid's going to be breaking into that graveyard doing bad things. Look over and go, yo, that dude Jay was a hard worker.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. That's all I care about. That's all I really care about. But
good.
Changing the world does not need to be, you discovering the cure to something or whatever.
That's right.
It doesn't need to be anything flashy. A lot of things that happen through change is the way you change the world is not through, politics or none of that stuff. It's really changing one person at a time.
That's exactly right.
You can't change a group of people at once. For you to actually help someone change, you have to be involved within their lives. And so we can only do that one person at a time. So if it's anything that I want to say that you would take away with this is just try to, if you want to change your kids in any way whatsoever for the better, I hope so. Just do it one life at a time. You don't have to do all this other stuff that people think you have to do. You don't have to have 7 rules to be a good parent. That's not. I don't view that as anything. Just be there for your kid. That's it.
And be the person that your kid would be proud of. I always like to think like morally, obviously I have daughters, and morally I want them to look at me as the example of who they end up, being definitely with or marrying or whatever. Like that's a huge responsibility on parents that we need to take seriously. And Hema, who's a friend of mine, writes, be the example you want your kids to be. Amen. She also writes, let's see, whoops. Change the world with one person and one deed at a time. Love it. You got a fan, Jay. You got a fan up here. So, my man, thank you so much for joining us today. Jay, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at jnewfitness.com. That's my website, and I also have a page called New. That that's my Facebook page.
I love it.
Or you can follow me on my other Facebook page, Jay Johnson.
So that's Jay Johnson. That's new. That's jaysnewfitness.com.
Yep.
All of these places you can find Jay. Jay, thank you so much for doing the show today. We truly appreciate it. That being said, I'm going to jump him off. Hold on one second. And thank you guys so much for joining us on episode 6 of At the Gardens. Remember, you can tune into the Facebook page. You can tune into our YouTube channel at Creative Gardens Early Education. You can also visit our website, creativegardensva.com. Click on the At the Gardens. All of our episodes are there on the blog. Thank you guys so much for your attention today. We'll keep having wonderful guests on to do amazing things. And let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. Remember, as always, keep your head up, keep moving forward, and have a fantastic Tuesday, y'all.